Seeing at 6 p.m., I'd like to call the May 17th, 2023 regular meeting of the Kenai City Council order. I'd like to welcome everybody here this evening and ask that if you're able, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Sonart.
Here.
Councilmember Dothett.
Here.
Mayor Gabriel.
Here.
Councilmember Nackstead.
Here.
Vice Mayor Baisden.
Here.
Councilmember Winger.
Here.
Councilmember Askin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Council, before we get to agenda approval, I'd like to call your attention to a laydown you should have in front of you with requests or additions to the packet. Action, add item K1, City Manager's Report, Planning and Zoning mid-month report, and also a cemetery updates memo, both requested by administration. Pleasure, Council. Councilor Nackstead.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I move for approval of the agenda and consent agenda with the add item K1 and also request to remove item H2 from the consent agenda.
Second.
Is there anybody that'd like to amend the consent agenda at this time, or the agenda? And I'd just like to point out that the reason for the withdrawal of, for the council, the withdrawal of item, what was it again, H2, was there was a technical issue that we just had to resolve on that, and we'll take care of that our next meeting. Would you please read the consent agenda in the record, please?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Approval of the special meeting minutes of April 27th, 2023, brought to you by the City Clerk, and the regular meeting minutes of May 3rd, 2023, brought to you by the City Clerk. New business action approval, bills to be ratified, brought to you by the administration. New business action approval, amending an employment agreement between the City of Kenai and City Attorney Scott Bloom, brought to you by Mayor Gabriel. Introduction of ordinance number 3353, 2023, adopting the annual budget, salary schedule, and employee classification plan for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024, and committing $5,761,661 of general fund balance for the future capital improvements, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on June 7th, 2023. Introduction of ordinance number 3354, 2023, accepting and appropriating grant funds from the Department of Justice passed through the Alaska Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force for the purchase of forensic software, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on June 7th, 2023. Introduction of ordinance number 3355, 2023, amending KMC 13.10.015 minor offense fine schedule to incorporate prior amendments to KMC 13.30.030 street parking prohibitions and the repeal of KMC 13.30.095 parking prohibited on Kenai Avenue, brought to you by the Legal Department. Public hearing on June 7th, 2023. An introduction of ordinance number 3356, 2023, amending Kenai Municipal Code Title 23, Personnel Regulations to address recruitment and retention of employees and make housekeeping changes, brought to you by the administration. Public hearing on June 7th, 2023, and that is your consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to comment on the consent agenda, which was just read into the record? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council.
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there an objection? Seeing none, both the agenda and consent agenda is approved, which brings us to scheduled administrative reports, which we have none this evening. But I do see some lovely people here for our next item of business, which is scheduled public comments. We have the 2023 Meals on Wheels event, Ms. Velda Geller and the Kenai Senior Connections.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Not very new at this. Good evening. My name's Velda Geller, and I am the president of Kenai Senior Connection. I have with me today Red Piercy. She is our administrative assistant, and there's a good many of our board members here, and we thank you for letting us come. We want to thank you for helping support us. We appreciate that very much. We appreciated you all coming to our fundraiser. You just pretty much make a lot of interest over there when things are over there with that, for that particular time. So we have taken in the largest amount of money this year that we have in all of the years that we've done this. So tonight we are here to present you with a $50,000 check from March for Meals 2023, and another $50,000 for our endowment fund. And in case you're still wondering, we have brought you some cookies, some Missy cookies. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Velda. Comments from council? Councilmember Dothett.
Could we get a picture with all the ladies and the big check? I think that'd be good.
Yeah, that'd be appropriate. I just want to open up for,
Okay.
make sure if anybody wanted to just add a few items. I know I just want to say I love that event. You guys, the Kentucky Derby was, theme was very well done, and all the little side hustles you guys had going on over there definitely added to the evening, and had a wonderful time. Councilmember next then.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time too. It was a great event, and I did get in the mail the flyer to hold the date for next year's and all of that, and that was much appreciated. And some of the other items that were, mailed to me too, some of the donations and stuff like that. I thought that was very high class, actually. It was very, very, very well done. Thank you, and thanks for this. It's very, very much appreciated.
Councilmember Raskin.
We had a really fun time. That's one of the best fundraisers we've been to, and it was awesome. I look forward to next year.
Councilmember Winger. Still have around line. Okay. Well, yeah, we would like to take a moment, and I know you got cookies, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of an at ease here to get a picture, and then maybe grab a cookie or two, and then continue on. But I do have one question. How does that go in the overnight deposit? Is there, and you have to fold it a certain way, or? We'll take a 5-minute at ease. excuse me, back on the record. Tonight, we have no under unscheduled public comments. Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time on any item that is not on the agenda or consent agenda? Are you sure? Just one person? I was counting on someone being, actually, oh, no, I'm just kidding. Seeing none, no, I'm just kidding. I'm trying to finish my cookie, that's. Seeing none, we'll go to public comments. First up, ordinance number 3348-2023, accepting and appropriate funds from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, passed through the State of Alaska Department of Education and Early Development, Division of Library, Archives, and Museums for library employee training. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3348, 2023.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public who'd like to speak to ordinance number 3348-2023? Seeing none in chamber or online, we'll bring it back to council. Comments, deliberation from council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you. Thank you, Katja, for getting these funds, securing them. Thank you.
Further comments? Again, yeah, I think Henry speaks for the entire council. Thank you for all the work you do over there. Very good. See no other comments, council or clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger, Mayor Gabriel.
Yes.
Councilmember Winger, if you need to unmute, you can press *6 from your phone to unmute.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3348, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have ordinance number 3349-2023, accepting and appropriating a donation to the Kenai Community Library for the purchase of early literacy equipment and furniture. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3349, 2023.
Second.
Is there anybody from the general public that'd like to speak to ordinance number 3349-2023? Nobody on? See nobody in chamber online, we'll bring it back to council deliberation. Councilmember Naxton.
I'd just like to thank the donor, Deborah McCarthy, for the $10,000 donation. I don't believe I know who she is, so if somebody out there does, they could thank her too. She is a local person here. Very, very generous of her.
Further comments? Yeah, again, I'd like to echo that sentiment myself, and anytime you see someone that bequeaths, not bequeaths, but gifts this amount, obviously for our city buildings, we greatly appreciate it and services that we provide. Seeing no other discussion or comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3349, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have ordinance number 3350-2023, accepting and appropriating grant funds from the Alaska High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area for drug investigation overtime expenditures. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3350, 2023.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3350-2023? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? Thank you, Chief Ross. The work that to put into this and the good work that you do over there. Seeing no other comments, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3350, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have item E4, ordinance number 3351-2023, accepting and appropriating funding from the State of Alaska Department of Health and Social Services, Division of Public Health for the Healthy and Equitable Communities Program, and authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of agreement for this funding. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3351, 2023.
I second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3351-2023? Seeing and hearing none, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3351, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have ordinance number 3352-2023, increasing estimated revenues and appropriations in the Kenai City Dock Improvement, Animal Control Improvement, and Airport Snow Removal Equipment Improvement Capital Project funds to transfer residual balance from completed projects back to their original funding sources. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to enact ordinance 3352, 2023.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to ordinance number 3352-2023? Seeing nobody in chambers or online, we'll bring it back to council. Comments from council? Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. No comments, but maybe just have the city manager, if he would, maybe just give an overview so the public knows what this is about.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Baisden. So these funds represent projects that have been completed with residual balances in prior years. Once those projects are complete, the funds lapse into fund balance, and in order to return them to the fund in which the funds originally came from, it requires an ordinance to do this, an appropriation. Just to be clear, all this appropriation is doing is authorizing the return of these funds to the originating fund. They're not authorized to be spent. Once they get either to the general fund or to the airport fund, that would take a separate appropriation. None is being proposed right now. So this is just a cleanup of residual balances from completed projects.
Thank you.
Further questions, deliberation? Seeing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Askin,
Yes.
Councilmember Naxted,
Yes?
Mayor Gabriel,
Yes.
Councilmember Winger,
Yes.
Councilmember Dothit,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Baisden,
Yes.
Councilmember Sonart.
Yes.
You have 7 yes votes. Ordinance number 3352, 2023 is enacted.
Thank you. Next up, we have resolution 2023-34, awarding a contract for ambulance billing services. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 2023-34.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2023-34? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll bring it back to council. Deliberation. Seeing none.
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Hearing none, resolution number 2023-34 is adopted. Next up, we have resolution number 2023-35, authorizing a service agreement for the personal use fishery dumpsters and portable restrooms. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt resolution 2023-35, request unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2023-35? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, bring it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there an objection? Hearing none, resolution number 2023-35 is adopted. That brings us to item E8, resolution number 2023-36, authorizing a service agreement to provide refueling services for city facility fuel tanks. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Nexton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2023-36 and request unanimous consent.
I second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2023-36? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll bring it back to council. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Hearing none, resolution number 2023-36 is adopted. Next up, we have item E9, resolution number 2023-37, authorizing a reallocation of funds within the Municipal Roadway Improvements Capital Project Fund. Pleasure, council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to adopt Resolution 2023-37 and request unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Is there anybody from the general public that would like to speak to resolution number 2023-37? Seeing nobody online or in chambers, we'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Dothett.
Maybe for city manager, if you can just give us a quick overview of which funds are going where and how much for the public.
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Dothett. So on South Spruce Street, this is the street that goes by the city's Little League baseball fields down to the beach. When it comes time for the personal use fishery, we establish our fee shacks just at the south end of the baseball fields there. And what we do experience on occasion when we get a real influx of participants is we get cars backing up all the way down Spruce Street. We actually split that road into 3 lanes at that point with cones trying to provide more storage, but we still end up in situations where we have traffic backing out on the Spur Highway, which is very problematic and very unsafe. So in an effort, also considering the activity with the Boys and Girls Club purchase of the care center and realizing that likely to be more traffic on the street in the future, the choice was to try to create a bypass lane to allow either traffic not participating in the fishery to bypass the shacks, or already permitted participants to use that bypass lane to bypass the shacks to end some of those lines. We're going to construct from the first entrance into the Little League until the second entrance, about 15 feet off of the current curb over. We're going to cut in another road to create this bypass lane. Once they hit that second entrance, they'll be just directed with conage around through the rest of the way through Little League parking to get past our shacks. So it's just us trying to create a new way to limit some of those lines and make sure it's still safe down there. It should create, honestly, a little bit more parking in the Little League area for during non-personal use fisheries. With the construction of that road, it'll widen the parking area in that area a little bit too. So I think it'll be beneficial in that way as well. The funding for this is some residual grant funds that we have for North and South Beach improvements that are related to the personal use fishery. So that is the funding source for this $50,000.
Thank you.
Further comments? As I remember right, the Little League fields aren't being used during that dip net season. Is that correct, Mr. Eubank?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Generally, there are on occasions where we have, like the first weekend of the fishery, there potentially are some conflicts where, frankly, we just close Little League to access by fishery participants so that Little League can use them. But generally, it's over within that first weekend of July. But there are occasional conflicts, but we always give priority to our local users and force the fishery folks to go somewhere else during that time.
Okay, yeah, I was just, if there was a conflict, just was wondering if there was any safety devices that would be put in. There doesn't look like there's much separation between the field and the road that would be delineated somehow.
Yeah, we'll delineate with cones.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. Further discussion? Unanimous consent was requested on resolution number 2023-37. Is there any objection? Seeing and hearing none, resolution number 2023-37 is adopted. That brings us down to item H8, action approval, special use permit to roadway processing for aircraft loading and parking space related to the fish hall operations. Pleasure, Council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve a special use permit with roadway processing for aircraft loading at the airport and request unanimous consent.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the special use permit to roadway is approved. Next up, we have under H9, action approval memorandum of agreement with Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport for use of the Alaska Regional Aircraft Fire Training Center. Pleasure, Council. Councilmember Axon.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve the memorandum of agreement with Ted Stevens International Airport for the Fire Training Center.
I second.
Discussion on the motion. Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Maybe this would be another one that we could have the city manager kind of give an overview of what's taking place here.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vice Mayor Basin. So, if council recalls, we entered into a memorandum of agreement with the state of Alaska for them to rent the facility to provide aircraft rescue firefighting training to rural airport staff. This is the same exact agreement that we are extending to the fire department at Anchorage International. So they have contracted with an individual to provide the training. This just provides them access to our facility and the props and the agreement to let them rent it to perform their training and their annual burns that they're required to do. So it's the same contract we used with the state of Alaska, just specifically with Anchorage International's fire department.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
Request unanimous consent.
Thank you. Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the memorandum of agreement with Ted Stevens International Airport is approved. Next up, we have another action approval item, H10, extending the agreement for tourism and marketing services with Divining Point LLC for 1 year. Pleasure, Council. Councilmember Naxton.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that we approve extending the agreement with Divining Point for 1 additional year.
I second.
Discussion on the motion? Councilmember Naxton.
Yes, Mayor Gabriel.
Oh, go ahead, Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I will not be in support of this. I think we need to be looking at other avenues. I feel that they are not on point. We're not seeing good results. Looking through their website, seeing a lot of discrepancies in the information that was listed. It almost comes off that we love the Kenai Peninsula, not I love Kenai. A lot of the things that are featured and highlighted are more through the Kenai Peninsula, not specific to Kenai. And if I do a marketing agreement, I want to be strictly marketing Kenai, not Cooper Landing, not Soldotna, not their trail systems, nothing. I feel like we've given patience, we've listened to meeting after meeting. I feel that we could get better product from online. I think we could probably do one of those online products and get better quality than what we're getting in a marketing service here. The banners were a miss the first time. The banners are still a miss. They didn't get any better on the second time. I don't feel that they're hitting any marks. And for this reason, I will be voting no on this, and I would encourage that we look for other going out for a new contract.
Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Yeah, I'm not going to support this. I think we ought to look at maybe trying to see what we can do with the chamber locally to work on our marketing. I don't know what's happened. I looked, even today, I looked on the Google site that I subscribe to with this, and the traffic is way down compared to when it first started. So I don't know if it's because the messaging has changed or what it is, but we're not getting the engagement that we did back in the day when this thing first started. So I'm not going to support it.
Further discussion, Councilmember Naxton.
Yeah, I got I guess, general question for the city manager. In the memo, it appears that the focus might be changing for this last year to be, more shopping local. That's how I understand it. And I was wondering if the administration has we can ask for your opinion. It doesn't fall in the memo. It's kind of up to us, but you work with these folks.
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have switched the focus a bit. The contract, I didn't remember the exact numbers it started at originally, but even since last year, I asked for a reduced scope from the consultant. I think the FY23 scope contract is touch over 70,000, and I asked him to reduce that down and focus more on the local content and development of the I Love Kenai website as a resource that the city could then rely on, in our recruitment for employees, and also make it available, or hopefully it was a resource to other local employers could use as a recruitment resource. There are some funds in there also for some print advertising, like we did this year with the chamber and their visitors guide, and things like that. My real goal, I think, is to, over the next year, work with the chamber and the new director, determine what the chamber's capacity is to do this level of marketing, and see if that's something that they feel like they're A, interested in doing, and B, have the capacity to take on. So this is the last year of an extension that is permitted under the original contract. And I did have some concern expressed by some council members over it, so I thought I would bring it to council and give council an opportunity to discuss this. And, I'm certainly not, I think there are other qualified firms that could do this, but I thought that this would give us one last year. We could do what the city's original intent was, which was to marry up the contract for operations of the visitor center and our marketing into a single contract. And that's the way it was originally bid in years past. So that was the purpose in requesting this extension. And again, I did reduce the scope with a focus on developing content for that website.
Councilmember Dothan.
Yes, and I've been talking with the chamber too, and with city manager. I'm most definitely not the biggest fan of this website and the advertising firm and how it's become, but with the reduced scope and also reduced price, I'm assuming, I think this would be the lowest price we've paid for the contract term. With the timing of everything that's going on at the chamber and everybody just starting to get their feet wet a little bit over there, I think the best solution here would be to continue this at the base minimum reduced rate until we can focus in on what we want to do and write up a new bid, and the chamber's coming up for its new budget. Hopefully, by December, we can have that time frame to kind of make a plan forward for us to move forward with something new. I think changing something completely right now will hamper the ability to move forward with that in our future. I think the best bet is to just do a reduced rate at this, basically keep them, even though I think it's extremely high, even just basically for managing the website, it is the lowest that they've charged us to this point. And with the intent that we are not going to move forward with it. I think there's a lot of room for improvement here, and I'm positive that we can get some better results in another facet come this spring. But everybody's just going to need some time to be able to bid it out, figure out employment, figure out scope of work and what we want to get done with the chamber and how we could work something into that role with the chamber. This was basically just a holding point to keep some marketing going, sort of status quo until we can get this changed over in the spring, hopefully, is where the hopes are coming from this. So I will be in favor of the reduced rate just because it is extremely reduced, giving us time with the intention to hopefully give us time to get something better. We just kind of didn't have the capacity to do that before budgeting came out this year. So that's where I'm at on that.
Councilmember Askin.
So is the rate reduced to 70,000 or is it under 70,000?
Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember asking, what's included in the proposed FY24 budget is 50,500. So it's reduced almost 20,000 from the FY23 level.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Basin.
A question and a comment, question for the city manager. This is an out-of-state firm that we're dealing with, is that correct?
Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vice Mayor Basin, yes, they're located out of Texas. Originally, when we contracted with them, they did have a local presence and a local gentleman that was working with them. I think they are no longer engaged with that individual, so they are 100% out of Texas.
So this is why this is easy for me not to support it. We could write a $50,000 check to the chamber, and if it just sit there for promotions for the city and nothing was done, the taxpayers would be $50,000 more to the good. We can't quantify how good this is doing. I'm telling you, the last 6 videos they did for us has single-digit views. We're going to basically spend $50,000 of taxpayers' money and give it to a firm in Texas that has not proven themselves worthy of this extension.
Councilmember Dothett.
I guess it'd be for city manager. If we were to cancel this, would we retain basically rights to the website and just be able to leave it just status quo as is until we can figure out somebody else to help run it?
Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Dothett, yes, we own the content that we've paid for to date. So we would have to determine how to administer that, but we do own all the content.
Councilmember Nexon.
If we were to move forward with it, what leeway would we have that they will work more closely with the chamber? I think that was our intent before, and I mean, our chamber hasn't been as well organized as it is right now the last few years. So it's in a much better position, but like Councilmember Dothett said, you know, they're getting their feet solid now, and so is that going to be a function of what they do, working with the chamber, that kind of interaction? How do you see that?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, absolutely, we want to integrate more with the chamber. We've also want to start engaging more with you know, our tribal partners here locally too, and help, you know, foster them developing content for our website, because there really isn't a lot of representation right there right now of their activities here locally. So those are all things that we're looking for, and we're definitely asking the consultant to work with to you know, update that website and make it better. So yeah, we want more interaction with the chamber and the local tribes, and so.
Councilmember Dothett.
If this were not to be approved tonight, what would be the status of, as far as moving forward? Would we pursue other options, or would we just leave it status quo until next year's budget and just leave the funds there? Kind of what would be the administration's plan forward if this were not to move forward?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Dothett, no, we would pursue a level, I mean, provided that the funding stays in the 24 budget, we would look to engage and find the best use for those funds, and continue down the path that we're on. We would just have to find different providers. I don't know that I would be looking for a long-term contract, because again, I'd like to give the chamber a chance under the new direction to, you know, to ascertain what their capacity is and what their interest is, and then look for something more long-term a year from now when they have 1 year left on their contract extension as well. So I'd like to marry those two back up.
A quick question, Mr. Eubank. Is this time sensitive? And the reason I'm asking that is that I agree with where this sort of evolved from was a separation of the contract with the chamber as far as management services for the building, and then marketing services, and there wasn't a interest at that time to jump on the marketing side. I see we got a new chamber director who I've heard great things about. So my thought would be, if there would it be possible for you to, and whatever we do, I'd like to see this work with the chamber at the same time. And the reason I would ask if it's time sensitive, is there a chance you could work with the chamber, have a meeting with them to discuss, maybe get their input of how that might look for them before we make a decision on it? Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did have cursory conversations with Samantha and the president of their board, and what I got out of that is I don't think that they were real comfortable jumping into something like this right now. I'm certainly happy to have those conversations. Our current contract expires on June 30th. With Dividing Point, that is a determination. It was extended last year for 1 year. So, we'll have to decide before that contract expires. And, but I'm happy to have that conversation again. I did have preliminary conversations with the chamber, and I think they were, not interested at that time in trying to take this on right now.
Okay, so that's kind of a good piece of information, because what I would think is if we can sort of, get some transition time here to get them comfortable with getting behind or on board with, a transition instead of just a hard, let's stop this and give it to the chamber and hopefully they do something with it. I think they did, I agree with a lot of the points that were made on the contrary. I will say that, we had a pandemic, during part of the time that they were under contract marketing during a pandemic, I think, which made that pretty difficult for all those companies. But I will say our sales tax are up, quarter over quarter, year over year for, the number of years we've had this. I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not saying that that's attributed to that. Whether it's an indicator or not, I don't know. But for me personally, I would like to see a transition, if they're willing, to the chamber. I've always thought that was a better fit because they're more focused on the city of Kenai and don't have other contracts they're dealing with. But I'd be inclined to, approve it and then see maybe a better or more smooth transition. Councilmember Dawson.
We do have a chamber representative here. Could we bring them up and just ask them if they might be able to, at the reduced expectations of we're already getting approved, do they think they might be able to handle a reduced load, not quite going as far, but with this reduced contract we're looking at, basically website management and some printed paper, would they be possibly interested in pursuing bidding on that?
Well, and I didn't really want to put them on the spot. That's why I asked for a postponement till the next meeting. So maybe that could be an option. So, do you feel comfortable? It's a pleasure, Council. I mean, I'll.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Vice Mayor Basin.
So, Mayor, this is not about the chamber. I don't think we should put the chamber on the spot. If the chamber cannot do anything, I think we're still ahead $50,000 to the taxpayers by not doing anything with this company. They don't deserve us, even with a reduced contract, to move forward with the performance that's took place here. Whether or not the chamber can do anything with it immediately or not, that's not my concern. My concern is saving taxpayer money, pushing this money out of state. Again, if this money stays within our local community and we can use it for any good, would be better than what we're using it for now. I think over time, the chamber, I think all of us up here want to see the chamber be successful, and I think they could probably help us with this. I know the new director has just been there for a few months, so, putting her on the spot, and she'll come up here and speak, but even if they can't do it immediately, I still don't want to see this money go to Texas. They don't deserve this renewal.
Fair enough. Let's just stick with that. I appreciate
Mayor
you.
Gabriel.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilmember Winger.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I disagree with what Mr. Basin just stated. We've had a lot of reasons not putting the chamber on the spot. I feel completely confident that they would give us, at the minimum, what we're getting from the current contractor. I have confidence that the chamber going forward, we'll be able to really pick up our marketing. But as Mr. Basin said, this would put us $50,000 ahead. We renewed last year, didn't get any results in this last year. And for that, I'm not inclined to give another $50,000 of taxpayers' money to him. We can just be ahead, or hopefully work something out ahead of time with the chamber. But I agree with everything that Mr. Basin just said.
Councilmember Nexon.
I'm kind of torn between the two, frankly, but what I'm hearing from Dothit and actually our city manager is that the chamber is not ready yet. I'm not sure when they would be, and I don't think that they're prepared to really talk about that. So, and frankly, I tend to agree with Councilmember Baisden as well, to a degree. So I would like to have, and since it's not time sensitive, I think I'd like to have a little more time. I mean, there is time available. I would like to have more of a formal response maybe from the chamber, because this is where this is going to go back to anyway, and see what they are capable of in the short and long term. And so with that, I'd move to postpone this item until the June 7th meeting.
I would second that and ask for unanimous consent.
Very good. Discussion on the motion to postpone.
I'm good with that.
Unanimous consent was requested. Is there any objection? Councilmember Dothit.
I guess I would say I'm okay with postponing it till June 7th, but would hope that we can have some kind of presentation, or at least allow the chamber to speak at the next council meeting.
Yes, yeah, that would be my hope, is that we would be able to hear from our director, the chamber director, but more give them time to flesh something out. I think that's appropriate. Seeing no objection, our resolution number 2023-37 is postponed to our June 7th meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, action approval. God, I'm doing it wrong. Action approval for extending our agreement with Tourism and Marketing Services. That brings us to Commission Committee reports. Council on Aging.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Council on Aging met last Thursday, May 11th, and they discussed revisions to their code of ethics that they worked on, and then they also discussed the upcoming capital improvement, the generator that's budgeted for them. So they discussed the generator and what it would do for them and what it would not do for them, but what it would do for the building. And so that was their two primary focuses, were the generator and their code of ethics. Thank you.
Thank you. Airport Commission.
I forgot. Yeah, that was me. Yeah, so we attended the meeting, pretty informative meeting, mostly to do with their plans for the landscaping in front of the airport. They had their presenter come down and show 3 different options. They kind of came to an agreement on a combination of 2 of the options, mostly to include a new mural and some shrubbery and redo the landscaping in front. And then some other topic that came up was possibly repainting and redesigning the parking lot out front with the individual that they did, the firm they was able to, I forget exact numbers, somewhere around 20 to 30 more parking spaces by just redoing the parking lines with the space they have allocated. And so they're talking about possibly painting, being able to paint in-house their own lines and basically changing the parking directly in front of the airport from going left to right to going front to back in a straight line, and it would add more parking space, with utilize the space better and possibly get more funds. So that was one of the things that came up there they're looking into. Apparently they have their own line painter, and they might be able to do it for relatively minimal expense. So those are the kind of 2 big subjects that are coming up.
Thank you. Harbor Commission.
That's me too. We didn't have a meeting. It was not a meeting, so.
Very good. Parks and Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Parks and Rec met on May 4th. It was little unusual. First, they had a special meeting and went into executive session, which is kind of a requirement in our code for Parks and Rec to discuss the qualifications of the Parks and Recreation Director applicant finalists. So they went in executive session, came back out. So that's the full report on that, really. And then after that, they did have a work session. And in the work session, they talked about the Old Town Playground, just kind of discussing what they might want to do in there with the space in general. There was no decision made.
Very good. Planning and Zoning Commission?
Thank you, Mayor. So the last planning and zoning meeting was canceled. There is a joint work session tomorrow between Planning and Zoning and Beautification Committee at 5:30 concerning the storefront ordinance that passed. That's tomorrow here. And then the next planning and zoning meeting is on the 27th of May at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Beautification Committee?
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Beautification Committee will be having a joint work session tomorrow night with Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. On the report of the mayor, I just wanted to, just a couple things here. I heard of the recent passing of Coach Dan Gensel, as many of you know, the sudden passing, and it just happened very, very recently, and I just wanted to extend sorrow and condolences to Kathy and the family. And then other than that, I just want to remind everybody we have Memorial Day coming up here prior to our next meeting, and they'll start out with the Avenue of Flags at Kenai Cemetery at 11 a.m. and then move to Leaf Hansen for their ceremony. And with that, we'll go to administration reports. City Manager, Mr. Eubank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things to report. We did receive the first quarter of 2023 sales tax data from the borough. So the first quarter, year over year, saw a 2.86% increase. So just shy of a 3% year over year growth in our taxable sales. The projections, budgeted projections, were about a 2.5% growth. For FY23 year to date, growth is about 4.3%. On a really positive note, I will say that the city of Kenai was the only jurisdiction that saw year-over-year growth in the first quarter of 2023. So that's a pretty positive thing for us. As was mentioned, we do have a storefront improvement joint work session tomorrow night, planning and zoning and beautification. Tomorrow afternoon, we have our kickoff meeting for the Old Town Playground design and visioning. Kind of on that group, there are going to be 2 members from the Kenaitze tribe, 2 members from Salamantoff, 2 members here from the city, and Ms. Nelson from the Art Society, meeting with the landscape architect to start looking at that project. We are getting ready to release, I believe tomorrow, we'll be releasing 3 bids for 3 different road projects. Willow Street, Phase 1, which is from Granite Point to just about to the sand pile, is that correct? Yeah, just past Forestry down there. Reconstruction of that road, some repairs on First Street, and then we have a project that's miscellaneous repairs, which is probably 10 different sites. Nine sites with just various sinkholes and things. Some of these are across the river over in the VIP area, and so they're kind of spread throughout town. But hopefully we get some good responsive bids there. Those will hit the street tomorrow. Touch on recruitment for you. We are on our 3rd recruitment for a finance director. We were unsuccessful in round 2. And we're in the final stages of our Parks and Rec director recruitment. If you get the chance, you want to drive by, quite a bit of work's being done over at the dog park right now. So that site's being leveled and some of the work's being done. Hopefully, we expect that the gazebo will be constructed by the end of May. That will allow us to complete the fencing and get ready for seeding of that. So that project's moving forward as well. The roof at the visitor center is almost complete. So they're definitely moving right along on the visitor center. Work over at the rec center is actually going to be starting this week. They're staging materials and things. On the bluff, we are still waiting on the PPA. That deadline has obviously slipped a little bit. I did get an email today from the Corps. They're not expecting any hiccups. They're just still waiting on the agreement from their command. I don't want to steal city attorney's thunder, but he wrapped up the acquisition of the final piece of property that we had to acquire for that project. So that was wrapped up this week, and I can't say thank you enough to Scott in working through that. There were how many signatures?
10 on the last deed.
10 different parties had to sign off on that one, so that was a big task. I do have a meeting scheduled on June 15th with a representative from AGDC, the Alaska Gas Line Development Corporation, to talk about the Nikiski LNG project and get an update on that. I think there's a little bit of traction going on right now, so I'll be interested to get an update on that. I'm happy to say, with cooperation of Parks and Rec and Public Works, we're actually going to have that slash site open this weekend. We didn't think we'd get it open until the first part of June, but we're going to open it up Friday of this week, Friday through Sunday. And then starting next week, it'll be on the regular schedule throughout the rest of the summer, which is Thursday through Sunday, 10 to 6. And we'll keep it open at least till October 1st or until the site is full. And last thing is, I just want to let council know I will be out of the office May 30th to June 2nd, but I will be available by cell phone or email. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions of the city manager?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman Winger.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. Thank you, Mr. Eubank. Just a question on the, first off, I should say thank you to our departments for working diligently to get the splash pile open. My question is, what are we going to do about the people with stumps? This is a question I've been getting hammered with, and I want to know kind of what the plan is before people just start dumping stumps in the goalies and everywhere else that I've seen crazy suggestions on. Do we have a plan? Are we working with someone so they just don't start getting dumped everywhere?
Mr. Eubank.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Winger, it's something we're looking into right now. We're definitely asking folks not to bring stumps to the slash site. They're definitely more problematic to get rid of and burn when we do. But I know that the borough's not taking them either at solid waste.
Just to add, so the borough today did say that they were opening up 3 gravel pits that were going to be taking slash, so that might be an exception to check into.
Yeah. Thank you, Vice Mayor. We'll definitely look into that. But yeah, it's definitely a concern, and we're looking for a solution. But for the management of our slash site and the ability to burn it come this fall, we're certainly stressing we'd like people to not bring the stumps there.
Further questions of the city?
Okay, thank you. I was just hoping we'd get some sort of plan. Thank you.
Further questions of the city manager? Seeing none, we'll go to City Attorney, Mr. Bloom.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel and members of council. I do have just a short report. I did want to let you know that the borough has an ordinance changing the composition of its planning commission. I have been following it, and I worked with the borough attorney to get an amendment in there to make sure that we got to forward a list of applicants. And while it will have an impact on other communities, because the city of Kenai has an assembly district that's solely in the city, we will be guaranteed a position on the planning commission if the ordinance passes. Also, there's the potential, because of the way the assembly districts shake out, for us to have 3 representatives on the planning commission if that was something we ever wanted. But I just want to make sure that council knows that we've been following it. I've been working with the borough attorney, and it should have, if anything, a beneficial impact on us if it passes. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there's anything else.
Questions of the city attorney? Seeing or hearing none, we'll go to our deputy clerk, Ms. Thibodeau.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. I have nothing to report, but I am available for questions.
Any questions of Ms. Thibodeau? Seeing none, with that, we'll open up to additional public comments. Is there anybody from the general public that would like to address the council at this time? Oh, Samantha, please.
Hello, everybody. So, this actually has to do with the website because I feel like I can address it right now. I will provide more information at the next meeting when we have it planned, but there has been more information since I talked to Terry briefly. So we are also redoing our own website right now. And I didn't realize how in-depth that was going to be, that we were already going to be very engaged in that website. And I don't actually think it would be as hard to manage them at the same time if needed. Now, in the future, I would like to bring on another staff member that would be completely for web design. But at this time, I do believe that it is something that the chamber could take on if needed. We have both myself and our new programs and facility coordinator are both very, we understand web design and we understand how the creative marketing works. So, like I said, we are all new. It is something that probably wouldn't be as perfect as a marketing department would be right off the bat, but it is something that we could maintain if we needed to. And that's a little bit different than what we talked about, only because I didn't see the potential yet of what our new programs and facility coordinator could do and what I can do with him. So, and since we're already going to be knee-deep in our own website, it actually makes a little bit of sense to integrate them together.
Thank you.
Could you?
Go ahead, Councilmember Dawson.
Could you give us a quick overview of any of the highlights going on at the chamber? I know you spoke of some retail sales bonus that we've been having and some new employees now and how things are going down there.
Sure. So we've had a lot of really great things happening. We have expanded our retail space. I mean, just in the last week, we've had over $4,000 in sales at the chamber, and it's shoulder season, so it's kind of, that's a big deal. Our retail is starting to take off. Our marketing and our social media presence alone right now, I think I put it at over 15,000% up compared to before I came on board. So our visibility is there. We're really starting to make a presence. People are coming in. The building is nonstop. If you've been in there, you know there's a little buzzer to let us know someone's coming in. It's like every 5 minutes that thing is going off. So we're seeing a shift in that building. We're seeing people starting to come there. And this was my plan from the very beginning, was to make sure that the chamber was being used. And so now we're having 4 bazaars a year. We're having our annual fundraiser being held at our building. It's going to be outside and inside. We're bringing things there. We're trying to get Kenai excited to be in Kenai again. Like, you don't have to go somewhere else. We have the things there. Our memberships are up. Our donations are up. So our visibility in general is up. So we'd like to continue that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Further questions? And I failed to ask you, are you okay with that? Are we postpone that action approval, and are you available then?
I am available
okay,
then. I just put it in my calendar.
Okay, wonderful.
So I'll miss a baseball game.
I apologize for not asking you.
It's okay. But also, I'm never on the spot. This is my job. So I feel like when I come to these, I'm prepared to speak on almost any matter. And if I'm not, I'll let you know.
Okay, very good.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else from the general public that would like to address the council at this time? Ms. Nelson?
director of the Kenai Chamber of Commerce. She's a great addition, that's for sure. We have some great shows ending, a great show ending, and 2 great shows coming up. In June will be a very special show. It'll be 3 women doing wonderful, wonderful artwork. Charlotte Coots and Abby Euland, who do magnificent paintings, and Shannon Olds, who is a premier potter. She does, her glazes are out of sight, I have to say. She has grown, oh God, I'll start crying here. Not funny, I want to tell you. Seriously not funny. I'm trying to think of what I can do to, anyway, that's another topic. And then in July is the Kenai Potters Guild 50th anniversary sale and show, which will be knockout, absolutely knockout. And they are working with Kenai River Brewing for a beer launch in celebration of that. I don't know what their label is going to be or exactly what their theme is going to be, but it certainly is going to be celebrating 50 years of the Potters Guild functioning inside that art center. And the rest of the year goes on. So, had these cards printed, not too long ago, and also not too long ago, like within the last 3 weeks, we changed from having First Thursday openings to First Friday. Guess what's on here? First Thursday. So I'll take the cards that are in the lobby right now, as well as the ones that we've got out that we can capture again, because it just had Printers Inc. do a sticker to put on here, and it's, yay, nothing like up close and personal mistakes. Another thing that I can't tell you a lot about, but we may have a nice little chunk of money coming our way from another source, not Rasmussen, which is still on, that process is still ongoing, but it might allow us to get a storage unit that we could possibly put outside next to the Potter's gambrel roof storage unit in the back. And I talked to Scott Curtin today about location, and he's checking into easements and what else, Scott? Setbacks, thank you. So that's my news. Any questions from anybody?
Questions of Ms. Nelson?
Nope.
Thank you, Marion. Is there anybody else from the general public that'd like to address the council at this time? Nobody online, seeing nobody in chamber. We'll go to council comments. Councilman Winger, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel and council. I just want to say congratulations again to the 2023 graduates, to our very own Silas who graduated. We just ended the Whaler wrestling season with a good wrestling season. I don't know if any of you caught it, but the Whalers were able to do a clean sweep in all the divisions, folk style, Greco, and freestyle. They were able to make a clean sweep in both their 10U, their 12U, and their girls division. So they got a clean sweep in all the divisions and got grand champions. My daughter placed first in the girls and third in the boys. And then my son got a second in folk style, a third in Greco, and a fifth in freestyle. So it was a very busy 5 days. And I just want to say congratulations to all the Peninsula wrestlers and the Whalers. And thank you, everyone, for a good meeting.
Thank you. Councilman Dothan.
Yeah, I guess one thing that we didn't mention with the chamber is that I was finally, with the help of Tyler over at Parks and Rec and a couple of new interns, that was their first day, we did move back the, I don't know, probably 12-foot giant beluga whale against some's opinion, but we found it in one of our storage units. So it was there originally when the building opened and we found it, so we were able to put it back in there. We have a giant life-size beluga whale and a baby beluga. And then we also found a really interesting cash register that somebody had said might have been in the original visitors chamber building, but it's probably pushing 100 years old. So anyway, the interns were, or the summer hires were a little bit caught off guard that their very first task after orientation was moving a beluga across town, but it was good for some good laughs anyway.
Awesome. Thank you. Councilmember Sonard.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. First, I'd like to say thank you to our chamber director, Samantha, for at least being flexible and willing to possibly put you on the spot. I just appreciated your flexibility tonight. I also want to thank our attorney, Mr. Bloom, for tying up all the real estate associated with the Bluff project. That's, when you're dealing with land and you're dealing with family, it can get messy, messy, messy. And so I'm sure tracking down 10 signatures was not a piece of cake. So thank you very much. And this past weekend, I got to attend and participate in the Alaska School Activities Association, their state music festival. I got to judge the clarinets on Friday and pick the winner for the command performance for the state. It was very, very fun. And I have to say, I like being on the side of the table of the judges instead of on the other side with the teachers.
Thank you, Councilmember Raskin.
Thank you, Mayor Gabriel. First of all, I want to thank Alex for stepping in for the Airport Commission. I appreciate that. I was out of town and I forgot to congratulate Silas and our class of 2023. Also, congratulations to the Senior Center and their very successful fundraising. And I just want to express my appreciation for all of our department heads acquiring funding and accomplishing the things that you do every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Basin.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to just follow up. Mayor Machicki was on the radio today and dealing with slash disposal. I think stumps are going to be able to taken down. I think it's going to be the gravel pit. It's going to be the closest to us is the one down Poppy Lane past the college. But I'll ask the city manager to follow up so we can get that information out. So I think we will have a place to take care of that. I do want to congratulate the Kenai Cardinals. The parking lot was full when we come by, so graduation, I'm sure, is in full swing right now. I'm pretty sure it's pretty hot in the auditorium with everybody in there, but I'm sure they're excited. There is regional soccer tournament that's hosted at Soldotna. Kenai girls and boys will be playing to go to states. The Kenai girls did finish their regular season undefeated. That's the first time that's ever happened. So both teams are very competitive. I expect both teams to enter the state. Thank you for the cemetery update on the memo through Mr. Curtin and the city manager. I like that we have some information now that we can deal with. In the future, one of the requests I'm going to have done with a new part of the cemetery is I think we do also need to look at a columbarium over there. One of my concerns is a columbarium that we have right now. The plaques that veterans specifically get, they can't use the size that they're given, and I'd like to see us maybe come up with something over there in the future too if we have funding available. I didn't ask to pull the budget or the recruitment and retention off the consent agenda. I do just want to make a comment that I do worry about the budget and the direction we're going in. I think that when I look back at the last three budgets, our expenditures have outpaced our revenues, and I think if we continue this trajectory, what we end up doing is we're going to have to take money out of other funds, specifically capital projects is where it's going to have to come from to fund the things that we need to, and I don't think that going forward that's going to last very long, and I think it's going to put us in a situation where it's going to put councils that come after us in tough situations where they're going to have to make tough decisions. So I just think that we need to stay on top of that. The recruitment and retention issues that passed that staff worked on, there was a few things that I disagreed with, but overall, I think it will help the city manager. I mean, I know you're having a tough time struggling with that. And I guess what I would ask for is maybe before we get to our next budget that you come back and let us know how things are working with that and whether it's helped you out a lot. So thanks for your staff and everything you do.
Thank you, Councilmember Knoxon.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank council for approving ordinance 3351, 2023, which appropriated a little over $134,000 to the rec center floor. And, after we had a meeting back in, I think it was January 4th on the roof and the HVAC, I didn't know if that was going to pass, but it was. I appreciate everybody seeing the importance of the rec center. I'd like to thank Mr. Bloom, too, for all of his work on getting those signatures. I know what that is like to some degree, and plus you did all the other properties, too, so, or helped with that. I'm going to give you credit. How's that? Since nobody else is going to say anything, but you had an awful lot to do with it. That's great. The last thing I want to say is, it is graduation time, and both of my girls went through all of the Kenai schools, graduated from Kenai Central High, and they excelled there. Good teachers, and they got good grades. They extracted everything they could out of that. They learned that was like the last thing they were going to get for free, was the education they get at high school there. And so they were able to take some additional courses while they're at it. I took them over to Soldotny even because they had special ones over there on anatomy and various other things. So since it's graduation time, I just came back from probably what is my last graduation to go to. And my second daughter, actually I have two daughters that are doctors now, and they originated from here. One of them will be coming back to the state of Alaska probably in a little over a year, but they're both outside now. But so Kenai Central High School students can excel if they put their mind to it. So anyway, that's a little bit of a brag on my part, but no doubt there. But I'm very proud of my daughters. But you can get a good education here, good teachers, and they've got programs that are available. You just need to apply yourself. Thanks.
Thank you. So tonight we have no executive session or pending items before us, and seeing all the business before this body, we are adjourned.